Betrayal, Feud.
The door opens and shopping bags flood into our hallway. Designer logos I've only seen in magazines. My wife walks in, glowing, holding a receipt longer than her arm. She kisses my cheek and says, "Baby, wait till you see what I got us." My phone buzzes. $249,876.42 charged to your account. My card limit is $15,000. My blood runs cold. She smiles. They approved everything. But I didn't call the bank. Someone else did, and they weren't approving a shopping spree. They were clearing me out. My name is Carter Miller, 38, and I'm telling this because that day wasn't about money. It was about the lie my whole life was built on. I always thought I knew my wife. Chloe, bright-eyed, loves sunsets, remembers how I take my coffee. We met in college, built a quiet life in Cincinnati. I'm a project manager. She does freelance graphic design. At least that's what she told me. Our savings were decent. We had a mortgage, 2 cars, a small safety net. My credit card was for emergencies and the occasional nice dinner. Limit, $15,000. I checked it every month. The day it happened was a Saturday. Chloe left after breakfast, kissed me, said she'd be back by 3. I was watching a game when my phone started buzzing. Not calls, not texts, alerts. Transaction, $48,920. Lexington Jewels. Transaction, $72,150. The Windsor Suites in apparel. Transaction, $33,600. Euro Auto Gallery. I stared, refreshed. The alerts kept coming. My hands shook. I called the bank. The line was busy. I called Chloe. No answer. By the time she walked in, the living room floor was covered in bags from stores I'd never heard of. She was smiling. Not a guilty smile, a free smile, like she'd won something. "Carter, look," she said, pulling out a watch. "Platinum. It's for you." I held up my phone. "Chloe, $250,000. She laughed. "I know. I couldn't believe it either. I called the bank while I was at the mall. They said your limit was raised. They said go ahead." "I didn't raise my limit." Her smile didn't fade. "Well, someone did." I called the bank again. This time, I got through. The agent said, "Mr. Miller, your limit was increased this morning per your request." I didn't request that. We have a voice recording authorizing it. They played it back for me. It was my voice, but I never called. That's when I knew. This wasn't a mistake. This was planned. And my wife was still smiling. For 3 days, I moved like a ghost in my own home. Chloe acted normal, cooked dinner, laughed at my silence, folded her new silk dresses like they were regular t-shirts. But her eyes watched me, closely. I didn't fight with her. I didn't yell. I just said, "We'll figure it out," and went to the den. And that's where I started digging. First, the money. I logged into our bank portal. The $250,000 wasn't just spent, it was transferred out of a savings account I didn't know existed, an account under my name but not my signature. It had been opened a year ago. The address on file was a P.O. box downtown. Next, the voice recording. I called the bank again, asked for security. They said the voice authorization came from a call routed through a virtual number, untraceable without a subpoena. But the agent slipped. She said, "It's a masking service. A lot of fraud cases use them." Fraud. The word hung in the air. But the fraud wasn't just against the bank. It was against me. Someone had accessed my accounts, my voice, my life, and Chloe walked right into stores like she knew the money would be there. So I did the only thing I could do. I pretended to believe her. I hugged her one night after she came back from yoga. I said, "Maybe the bank messed up. Maybe it'll get reversed." She patted my back, relief in her touch. "Yeah, baby, I'm sure it will." I smiled, and the next morning, I drove to the downtown P.O. box from the bank records. It was in a small, grimy postal center near the river. I showed the clerk my ID, Carter Miller. He nodded and handed me a small stack of mail, bills, official letters, and one plain envelope, no return address. Inside was a single key, number 47, and a sticky note, Store All West, 47. Store All West was a storage facility on the edge of town. I waited until dark. Unit 47 was a 10 by 10, climate-controlled. The key fit. When I opened the door, the motion light clicked on. No furniture, no boxes of old clothes, just 4 filing cabinets and a laptop on a small table. I opened the first drawer. Files, my name, my social security number, loan applications, credit reports, tax returns from years I hadn't filed yet. The second drawer, Chloe's handwriting, notes on my schedule, my passwords, my mother's maiden name, my security questions. The third drawer, photos of me, of us, of my old office, of my brother's house in Dayton. The fourth drawer was empty, except for one envelope. Inside, a deed to a house in a town called Briarwood, 2 states over, in Chloe's name, purchased 8 months ago. My hands were shaking, but my mind was cold, clear. This wasn't a shopping spree. This was a payout. She wasn't just spending money, she was clearing money, moving it, hiding it before disappearing, and I was the target. So I took the laptop, drove home in silence. When I walked in, Chloe was on the couch, wrapped in one of her new cashmere throws. "Where were you?" she asked, her voice soft. "Just driving," I said, thinking. About what? I looked at her, really looked. The woman I loved, the woman who had notes on my whole life in a storage locker. I said, "Maybe how to fix this." She smiled. "We will." I nodded. In that moment, I decided I wouldn't fix it. I would break it all. Every lie, every secret, every piece of the life she built to bury me. I went to the garage, opened the laptop. It had no password, just a folder on the desktop. Final transfer. Inside, bank routing numbers, dates, a countdown timer. 14 days.
2 weeks until the next transfer. The big one. The one that would empty everything. I closed the laptop, sat in the dark, and I started to plan. Revenge wouldn't be angry. It would be quiet. It would be exact, and it would leave her with nothing, just like she tried to leave me. I had 14 days. 14 days before the final transfer would wipe out everything left in my name. 14 days to turn from prey into something else. Something quiet, patient, and dangerous. I didn't sleep much. I ate when Chloe wasn't watching. I smiled when she kissed me goodbye in the mornings, and I worked. First, I needed help. Not from the police, not yet. They asked questions I couldn't answer. Not from friends or family, they were part of the lie too. I needed someone outside of my world. That's how I found Leo. Leo ran a tech repair shop in a strip mall, but that wasn't his real business. His real business was information. I'd heard his name once from an old coworker who'd been hacked and needed to know who did it. I drove there on a Tuesday. The shop smelled like old electronics and coffee. Leo was in the back, a big man with tired eyes and tattoos on his forearms. "I need to trace a transfer," I said, keeping my voice low. "And a voice recording." He looked at me for a long moment. "You police?" "No, I'm the one being robbed." He nodded slowly. "Show me what you have." I gave him the laptop from the storage unit. He plugged it into his own system, his fingers moving fast over the keyboard. "This is linked to a dummy corporation," he said, after a few minutes. "Based offshore. The transfers are being routed through 3 different banks. They're moving money, but they're also layering it, making it look like payments for fake services. Can you stop it?" "Not from here," he said, "but I can trace where it's going and who's on the other end." He worked for 2 hours. I waited, watching the security camera screens on his wall, my heart beating hard. Finally, Leo leaned back. "The final transfer is scheduled to go to an account in the Cayman Islands. The account is under the name CM Holdings." "What's that?" "It's a shell company, but the beneficiary listed is Chloe Miller." My stomach dropped, even though I already knew. Hearing it out loud was different. "There's more," Leo said. "She's not alone." He turned the screen toward me. It showed email exchanges between Chloe and Daniel Reese. Daniel Reese, my wife's ex-fiancé, the one she said had left her years ago, the one she said she never wanted to see again. The emails were cold, professional. They talked about timelines, amounts, and cleaning up loose ends. One of the loose ends was me. Leo looked at me. "You're in deep, man." "I know," I said. "What do I do?" "You have 2 choices. You walk away and let them take everything, or you beat them at their own game." I didn't hesitate. "I want to beat them." "Then here's what you do." Leo's plan was simple, but dangerous. We would set a trap. We would let the transfer try to go through, but redirect it at the last second. To do that, we needed access to Chloe's authorization codes, and we needed to do it without her knowing. I went home that night like nothing had changed. Chloe was in the kitchen, making salad. "Long day?" she asked. "Just work," I said. She came over and hugged me.
"It'll be okay, Carter." I held her tight, my face against her hair. I wanted to believe her. I wanted this all to be a bad dream, but I could feel it, the tension in her shoulders, the way she held me a second too long. She was saying goodbye. The next few days, I played my part. I pretended to be stressed about money. I pretended to trust her, and I watched. She thought she was careful, but she got lazy. She left her phone on the counter when she showered. She wrote down passwords in a notepad in her purse, thinking I'd never look. One night, she went out with friends. I went into her home office, the little room where she did her graphic design work. Her computer was on. I typed in the password I'd seen. Daniel 1979. It opened. Files, spreadsheets, bank drafts, a full countdown to the transfer, and a folder labeled Carter, exit plan. I opened it. Inside was a fake death certificate, mine, a life insurance policy I didn't know about, and plane tickets to Belize, one for her, one for Daniel. My hands shook, but I didn't close the file. I copied everything onto a flash drive. Then I put it all back exactly as it was. The day before the transfer, I met Leo one last time. "I have everything," I told him. He took the flash drive. "I'll set the redirect. The money will bounce to an account you control, but you need to be ready. When she realizes it didn't go through, she'll come for you." "I'll be ready." I drove home, my mind clear. This was it, the last night of our old life. Chloe was already in bed when I got home. I stood in the doorway, watching her sleep. For a second, I saw the woman I married, the one who laughed at my jokes, the one who held my hand at my father's funeral. Then, I saw the other woman, the one in the emails, the one with the exit plan. I turned away. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room, in the dark, and waited for morning. At 9 a.m., the transfer was supposed to happen. I sat at the kitchen table, drinking coffee. Chloe came in, dressed in yoga clothes, her hair perfect. "You're up early," she said, smiling. "Big day," I said.
Her smile tightened. "Oh?" "Yeah," I said. "I think today everything changes." She didn't answer. She picked up her phone, typed something fast, then put it down. "I'm going to class," she said. "I'll be back by noon." "Sure," I said. She kissed my cheek, a dry, quick kiss. Then she was gone. I waited 5 minutes. Then I opened my laptop. Leo had set up a mirror on the transfer portal. I watched as the transaction initiated. $1.2 million. All my remaining assets. All our joint holdings. The status bar loaded. 50%, 75%, 90%. Then it stopped. Redirected. A new notification popped up on my screen. Funds successfully transferred to account ending in 8814. My account. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. It was done. The money was safe. But the game wasn't over. It was just beginning. My phone rang. It was Chloe. Her voice was sharp, tense. "Carter, did you get any bank alerts this morning?" "No," I said calmly. "Why?" "Nothing. Never mind. I'll be home soon." She hung up. I knew what was coming next. I stood up, walked to the living room window, and looked out at our quiet street. 2 cars pulled up. One was Chloe's. The other was a black sedan I didn't recognize. Daniel Reese stepped out. Tall, clean-cut, wearing a suit like he was going to a meeting. Chloe got out of her car and walked toward him. They didn't hug. They talked fast, their faces serious. Then they both turned and looked at our house. I didn't move. I stood there in plain view in the window. And I waited. Chloe's key turned in the lock. The front door opened. She walked in, Daniel right behind her. She stopped when she saw me. "Carter," she said, her voice flat. "We need to talk." "I know," I said. Daniel stepped forward. "Mr. Reese, this doesn't have to get ugly." I looked at him, then at my wife. "It already is." Chloe's mask finally fell. Her eyes went cold. "Where's the money, Carter?" "Gone," I said. "You have one chance to wire it back, or we do this the hard way." I smiled. It felt strange on my face. "There's no money left to wire," I said. "But there's something else." I picked up the remote from the coffee table. "I've been recording everything. Emails, plans, this conversation." I pointed to the small camera on the bookshelf, the one Chloe bought for security.
Her face went pale. Daniel took a step toward me, but I was already moving. I hit a button on my phone, and from outside, sirens began to wail. The sirens grew louder. Chloe's eyes widened. Daniel's calm mask cracked. He took a step toward me, but I didn't move. "You called the cops?" Chloe hissed. "No," I said quietly. "I called the FBI, Financial Crimes Division. They've been waiting." The black sedan outside suddenly had company, 2 unmarked SUVs and a local patrol car. Doors opened. Men and women in windbreakers moved quickly toward the house. Daniel backed toward the patio door. "Chloe, we need to go." But it was too late. A hard knock came at the front door. "FBI, open up." I walked past them both and opened it. 2 agents stood there, 1 man, 1 woman, badges visible. "Carter Miller?" the female agent asked. "Yes." "We'll need you to step aside, sir." They entered, and the room changed. This wasn't my living room anymore. It was a crime scene. Chloe stared at me like she'd never seen me before. "You did this?" she whispered. "You did this," I said. "I just finished it." Daniel was read his rights, hands cuffed behind his back. He didn't look at Chloe. Chloe's turn came next. The agent's voice was steady, calm. "Chloe Miller, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, identity theft, and attempted grand larceny." She looked at me as they put cuffs on her. "I loved you once," she said. It wasn't soft, it was an accusation. "No," I said. "You loved the man you thought I was, quiet, trusting, blind." They led her out. She didn't look back. The weeks that followed were a blur of statements, evidence, and lawyers. Leo had forwarded everything: emails, the storage unit contents, the fake death certificate, the voice cloning software they'd used to imitate me. It was enough to bury them. My name was cleared with the bank. The $250,000 shopping spree was flagged as fraud. The $1.2 million was returned to my accounts, minus legal fees. But money didn't matter anymore. What mattered was the silence in the house. I sold it. Furniture, pictures, her clothes, all of it gone. I moved into a small apartment downtown where no one knew my story. Chloe took a plea deal, 8 to 12 years. Daniel got longer. He'd done this before, in other states with other women. I didn't go to the sentencing. I didn't want to see her face again. One cold afternoon in November, I got a letter. Not from her, from her mother. "Carter, I don't expect you to forgive her. I don't even understand what she did, but she's my daughter. She asked me to tell you she's sorry, not for getting caught, for not being who you thought she was. I'm sorry, too. Margaret." I read it once, then burned it in the kitchen sink. Watched the paper curl into black ash. Some things you don't keep. A month later, I was on a plane to Colorado. I'd never been. I'd never done a lot of things. I rented a cabin near a lake. No internet, no TV. Just quiet. One morning, I sat on the porch with a coffee. The snow was falling, soft and steady. A deer walked through the trees across the lake, calm, unhurried. My phone buzzed. It was Leo. "Everything's finalized. Their assets are seized. You're free." I typed back, "Thanks for everything." He replied, "Anytime. Stay out of trouble." I put the phone down. For the first time in a year, I took a full breath. The air was cold and clean. Revenge didn't feel like victory. It felt like a closing door. On the other side was silence, and in that silence I could finally hear myself again. Not the betrayed husband, not the victim, just Carter, 38, alive, starting over. I finished my coffee, went inside, put on my coat and boots. I had no plan for the day, and for once, that was enough.